They say silence is empty, but what if silence is where you finally hear yourself? In a world that glorifies noise, where validation is measured in likes and happiness is tied to presence, we forget the rarest luxury of all, being whole on our own. But pause for a moment. What if solitude isn't loneliness, but the key to a richer, more meaningful existence? The ancient Stoics believed that true strength is found not in how we interact with the world, but in how we stand when no one is watching. So, let me ask you, if everything external was stripped away, no distractions, no applause, would you still find peace within yourself? Because in the stillness, in the quiet, lies an untapped power. A power that can transform isolation into independence, absence into presence, and silence into the loudest statement of all: I am enough. 1. The art of letting go, finding freedom in release. We cling to what we know, relationships that have long lost their warmth, habits that quietly erode our well-being, beliefs that no longer serve us. We hold on, not because these things bring us joy, but because they are familiar, and in that familiarity we find a false sense of security. But let me ask you, if something weighs you down more than it lifts you up, is it truly yours to keep? The Stoics believed that suffering often comes not from the events in our lives, but from our resistance to change. We fear letting go because we mistake it for failure. But letting go is not losing. It is choosing. It is standing at the crossroads of life and deciding to walk away from what no longer nurtures your growth. It is understanding that real strength is not in how tightly you hold on, but in how willingly you release. Imagine climbing a mountain, but with every step you carry a heavier load, memories of past hurts, people who drain your spirit, regrets that whisper doubts into your mind. You tell yourself that you must endure this weight, that to set it down would be an act of weakness. But the truth is, the higher you climb, the more you must lighten your load. The higher you climb, the more you must surrender, because freedom is not found in accumulation, it is found in release. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The weight you carry is not the circumstances themselves, but your attachment to them. You cannot force someone to love you. You cannot rewrite the past. You cannot mold the world to fit your expectations, but you can control your response. You can choose to stop clinging to what depletes you. So, how do you begin? How do you let go of what you've spent years holding on to? The first step is clarity. Ask yourself, does this bring me peace, or does it bring me pain? Be honest. Often, we romanticize the things we should walk away from, telling ourselves that we are just being patient, just waiting for things to get better. But patience is not the same as self-betrayal. If something repeatedly drains your energy, erodes your confidence, or makes you feel small, it is not yours to keep. Next, embrace the discomfort of release. Letting go is not a painless process, it is an act of transformation. When a snake sheds its skin, it does not resist. It does not cling to the old layers that once protected it. It surrenders to change because it knows that growth demands it, and so must we. Perhaps you fear what lies on the other side of letting go. The emptiness, the unknown. But let me tell you, this emptiness is not a void. It is a space waiting to be filled with something new. It is the silent breath before the next chapter of your life begins. And if you never make space, How will you ever allow the right things to enter? Consider this. When you unclench your fists, you do not lose, you make room. Room for new experiences, for new love, for new peace. Room for yourself. When you loosen your grip on the past, you do not fall, you free yourself to rise. It is time. Time to untangle yourself from what no longer belongs to you. Time to step forward without the chains of what-ifs and could-have-beens. Time to walk lighter, breathe deeper, and embrace the truth. What is meant for you will never require you to diminish yourself to keep it. 2. The power of solitude. Embracing yourself fully. We are conditioned to believe that being alone is something to be avoided. That silence is emptiness. That solitude is a void we must fill with distractions, people, or validation. But what if solitude was not an absence, but a presence, the presence of yourself? What if it was not a punishment, but an invitation to finally meet the person who has been with you all along? The Stoics knew that true strength does not come from external approval, but from self-mastery. Epictetus once said, "He who is not satisfied with a little is satisfied with nothing." And in this modern world, where we are constantly bombarded with the illusion that happiness comes from more company, more attention, more distractions, there is a radical kind of freedom in realizing that everything you need already exists within you. But let's be honest, being alone is not always easy. There are moments when the silence feels deafening, when the absence of others makes you question your worth. We have been conditioned to see solitude as loneliness rather than an opportunity for self-discovery. But ask yourself, if you cannot enjoy your own company, how can you expect anyone else to? Self-acceptance is the foundation of peace. It is not about waiting for the world to embrace you. It is about embracing yourself first. When you look in the mirror, do you see someone worthy of love? Or do you see someone constantly seeking it from others? Do you find comfort in your own presence? Or do you try to escape it? To thrive alone, you must first unlearn the belief that solitude is a void. Instead, see it as a sacred space to grow, to reflect, to strengthen. Imagine standing in an empty room. Some may see loneliness, but what if you saw potential? A place where you can build, create, and transform. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." But how often do we allow ourselves that retreat? Instead, we run from ourselves, filling every moment with noise, afraid of what the silence might reveal. But here's the truth. The parts of you that you avoid in solitude are the very parts that need your attention the most. So how do you begin? How do you learn to embrace yourself fully? Being alone is not a deficiency, it is a strength. It is in solitude that you come to know yourself, not through the reflections of others, but through the clarity of your own thoughts. Take time each day to sit with yourself, without distractions. Go on a walk alone, eat at a restaurant by yourself, spend an evening in silence. Notice how your mind reacts. Does it crave noise? Does it seek escape? That reaction itself is a lesson. It shows you where you have been relying on external validation instead of internal fulfillment. Many people feel disconnected from themselves because they never take the time to truly be with themselves. Develop rituals that nurture your relationship with yourself. Journal your thoughts without judgment. Meditate on your emotions without running from them. Read books that challenge and expand your mind. Instead of waiting for someone else to offer you kindness, Offer it to yourself first. Too often, we tie our value to how others see us. We feel important when we are needed, when we are loved, when we are validated. But your worth is not something that fluctuates based on someone else's recognition. It is constant. You are enough not because someone else says so, but because you decide to believe it. Think of a tree standing alone in an open field. It does not seek approval to exist. It does not compare itself to the trees in the forest. It simply grows, firmly rooted in its own space. Be that tree. Grow where you are, not where others expect you to be. Many people fear solitude because they have spent their lives shaping themselves to fit into spaces that were never meant for them. But solitude gives you the opportunity to break free from that need, to exist as you are without justification, to wear what you want, think as you please, live in a way that aligns with your soul. Stop apologizing for being different. Stop shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. You do not need permission to be whole. There is a profound peace in watching the world move without feeling the need to chase it, to sit by the ocean and listen to the waves, to watch the sun rise without feeling the urge to capture it for validation, to laugh alone, to think deeply, to simply be. These are not small moments, they are everything. So ask yourself, are you afraid of being alone, or are you afraid of what you might discover in the silence? Because when you stop running, when you finally embrace yourself, you will realize something powerful. You were never truly alone to begin with. You have always had yourself. And if you can learn to love the person you are in solitude, then when you do choose to share your life with others, it will not be from a place of need, but from a place of fullness. Not seeking completion, but connection. Not fearing solitude, but cherishing it. 3. The art of letting go. Cleansing negativity from your life. If your life were a garden, what would it look like? Would it be a place of peace and beauty, filled with growth and possibility? Or would it be tangled with weeds overrun by negativity, toxic relationships, and habits that drain your energy? Too often, we allow harmful influences to take root in our lives simply because they have been there for so long. We hold on to people who no longer uplift us, engage in patterns that weaken our spirit, and entertain thoughts that poison our peace. But ask yourself, if something is constantly weighing you down, why do you keep carrying it? The Stoics believed that true tranquility comes not from adding more, but from removing what does not serve us. Seneca once advised, associate with people who are likely to improve you. But do you? Do the people in your life nourish your growth, or do they plant seeds of doubt? Do your habits empower you, or do they quietly strip you of your strength? Do your thoughts build you up, or do they keep you trapped in cycles of self-sabotage? Cleansing negativity is not just about letting go, it is about creating space. Space for clarity, space for freedom, space for the things that truly deserve a place in your life. Negativity is not always loud. Sometimes it whispers. It disguises itself as familiarity, as routine, as just the way things are. A friend who drains you with endless complaints. A habit that numbs you rather than strengthens you. A self-doubt that plays on repeat in your mind. But here's the truth, you are not obligated to carry what harms you. Not every friendship must be kept. Not every habit must be sustained. Not every thought must be believed. If something is eroding your peace, it is not your responsibility to endure it. It is your responsibility to remove it. We hesitate to let go because we fear the void it will leave behind. But emptiness is not the enemy stagnation is. If a tree refuses to shed its dead leaves, it cannot make way for new growth. And if you refuse to release what no longer serves you, how will you ever make room for the life you truly deserve? It is not cruel to set boundaries. It is not selfish to choose your well-being. It is not unkind to walk away from relationships that deplete you. Imagine carrying a heavy bag of stones, each one representing an obligation, a toxic presence, or a destructive habit. You may feel that you must keep carrying them, that it would be irresponsible to set them down. But what if you did? What if you lightened your load? What if, instead of carrying the unnecessary, you chose freedom? The world will not collapse because you decided to protect your peace. The only thing that will collapse is the illusion that you must endure suffering to be kind. Think of your mind and soul as a sacred space. Not everyone deserves access. Not every thought should be entertained. Not every situation requires your attention. Your energy is precious. Why waste it on things that leave you empty? Cleansing negativity is not just about removing people or habits. It is also about controlling what you allow into your mental and emotional space. Be mindful of what you consume. The news, social media, gossip, these can be invisible toxins, filling your mind with fear and anxiety. Filter them. Choose what nourishes your spirit. Choose your battles wisely. Not every insult requires a response. Not every disagreement needs your participation. Protect your peace by refusing to engage in unnecessary chaos. Reframe negative thoughts. Your mind is a powerful force, but left unchecked, it can become your greatest enemy. When you catch yourself dwelling on negativity, ask, is this thought helping me or harming me? If it is harming you, replace it. Challenge it. Do not let your own mind be the thing that holds you back. Creating a life that feels light. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that nothing is weighing you down, that you no longer carry the burdens that were never yours to hold, that your life feels light because you chose to free yourself. This is not an impossible dream. It is a decision to stop tolerating what drains you, a decision to walk away from what no longer aligns with you, a decision to no longer be available for anything that does not bring you peace. When you clear away the unnecessary, you will find that life becomes simpler, clearer, more intentional. You will never feel the need to explain yourself to those who do not understand you. You will no longer feel obligated to maintain connections that no longer serve you. You will no longer give your time, your thoughts, or your energy to things that diminish you. And in that space, in that newfound clarity, you will rediscover something you may have lost along the way yourself. 4. Unshakable worth, discovering the power within. If everything you owned, every title you carried, and every relationship in your life was stripped away, what would be left? Would you still see yourself as valuable, or has your sense of worth been tied to things outside of you? Most people spend their lives chasing validation, believing that happiness is found in being chosen, admired, or praised. But the truth is, self-worth is not something to be earned from others. It is something to be recognized within yourself. You are not valuable because someone says so. You are valuable because you exist, because you are. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But too often, we surrender that power. We let the world dictate our value, allowing rejection, failure, or comparison to define who we are. We let temporary setbacks make us forget our permanent worth. But let me ask you, who were you before the world told you who you should be? We are conditioned to believe that our worth is something fragile, something that must be proven. If people love us, we feel worthy. If they ignore us, we feel invisible. If we succeed, we feel valuable. If we fail, we feel worthless. But this cycle is a trap. Imagine a tree standing alone in an open field. It does not shrink when no one admires it. It does not demand validation to continue growing. It simply is. It reaches for the sky, not because it needs approval, but because that is its nature. Now, ask yourself, what if you stopped searching? What if you stopped waiting for permission to feel whole? True self-worth does not waver when others walk away. It does not crumble under criticism. It does not disappear when circumstances change. It is steady, unshaken, because it comes from within. One of the most damaging lies we tell ourselves is, I will be happy when I get that promotion, when they finally notice me, when I reach that goal. But the more you chase, the more distant happiness becomes. The Stoics understood this deeply. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." When you tie your worth to external things, you will always feel like something is missing. Because the moment you achieve one thing, the next craving appears, and suddenly you are not enough again. But what if, instead of chasing, you started choosing to see yourself as enough, right now, choosing to detach from what does not serve you, choosing to stand firm in who you are, without apology. Because confidence is not about being perfected, is about being at peace with your imperfections. What if the very things you criticize about yourself were actually signs of your uniqueness, the way you think differently, the way you see the world, the way you have endured despite everything? We are so quick to admire the resilience of others, but hesitate to recognize it within ourselves. But consider this: every scar, every lesson, every moment of struggle has shaped you into someone stronger than you were before. Instead of rejecting your imperfections, honor them. They are not signs of weakness, they are proof that you have lived. And if you still doubt your worth, ask yourself, would you ever speak to someone you love the way you speak to yourself? Would you tell a friend, you are only valuable if others approve of you? Would you tell a child, you are not enough unless you achieve more? If the answer is no, then why do you say these things to yourself? People will come and go. Achievements will rise and fall. Life will shift in ways you cannot control. But your standards show you allow yourself to be treated. What you accept, what you demand, those are within your power. Do not wait for the world to hand you your worth. Define it yourself. Do not beg for appreciation. If someone does not see your value, it is not your job to convince them. Do not stay where you are tolerated instead of celebrated. A room that does not appreciate you is not a room worth staying in. Do not shrink yourself to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. The right people, the right opportunities, the right life will not require you to become less. You do not need to prove your worth. You only need to honor it. Think of the people you admire the most. The ones who seem unshaken, unbothered, fully themselves. What do they all have in common? It is not that they never faced rejection. It is not that they never doubted themselves. It is that they learned to stand alone, to be unshaken by praise or criticism. to know their worth, regardless of the world's response. And that is the lesson. When you build your self-worth from the inside, nothing on the outside can take it away. So, I leave you with this. What if, starting today, you stopped asking, "Am I enough?" and instead declared, "I am enough." Because you are. You always have been. Now, it is time to believe it. 5. Confidence is built, not found, the power of taking action. Confidence is often misunderstood. People assume it is something you either have or don't, like a talent you are born with. But confidence is not a gift. It is a result. It is not something you wait for. It is something you build. And how do you build it? Through action. You do not become confident by thinking about being confident. You do not gain self-assurance by sitting in silence, waiting for the right moment. Confidence comes from stepping forward, even when you are unsure, even when fear lingers in the background. Epictetus once said, "Happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control, and some things are not. Your confidence is one of those things within your control. It is not given to you by others. It is created by the choices you make, the actions you take, and the courage you summon even in uncertainty. Doubt will never disappear before you take action. Many people wait until they feel ready, until the fear is gone, until confidence magically appears. But that moment never comes. The truth is, confidence follows action, not the other way around. Think of the first time you did anything new. Driving a car, speaking in public, starting a conversation with a stranger. You were nervous, uncertain, maybe even terrified. But the more you did it, the more natural it became. Your confidence grew not because the task changed, but because you did. This is why the Stoics emphasized practice. You cannot think your way into confidence. You must act your way into it. Many people never build confidence because they expect perfection from the start. They want to be great before they have even begun. And when they fall short, they assume they are not good enough. But confidence is not about being perfect. It is about trusting yourself even when you make mistakes. It is about knowing that failure is not a reflection of your worth, but a necessary step in your growth. Instead of focusing on being flawless, focus on progress. Set small, achievable goals. Celebrate small wins. Take one step and then another. Because the more you prove to yourself that you can do something, no matter how small, the more confidence you gain. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Stop overthinking. Stop hesitating. Just start." Many people unknowingly wait for permission to be confident. They believe they need someone else to validate them before they can believe in themselves. But let me ask you, who are you waiting for? Who do you think is going to grant you the right to be bold, to be capable, to be worthy? The truth is, no one is coming to do that for you. And that is a gift, because it means you are free. Free to stop asking, "Am I good enough?" and start declaring, "I am willing to grow." Confidence is not something you earn by pleasing others. It is something you cultivate by trusting yourself without needing external approval. A major reason people lack confidence is because they are too focused on results. They attach their self-worth to whether they succeed or fail. But the Stoics teach us to detach from the outcome and master the process. Instead of asking, "Will this work?" ask, "Am I showing up?" Instead of fearing failure, focus on getting better. A painter does not create a masterpiece with their first brushstroke. A warrior does not win every battle. A speaker does not captivate an audience with their first words. But they all keep going. They refine their craft. They trust the process. Confidence is not built in one moment. It is built in the moments you choose to keep going despite uncertainty. Fear is not a signal to stop. It is a signal that you are stepping outside of your comfort zone, and that is where confidence is built. Instead of fearing failure, fear stagnation. Fear staying the same. Fear never trying, never knowing what you are capable of. Because the greatest regret is not failing, it is wondering what could have been if you had only tried. Fear does not mean you are weak. It means you are on the edge of transformation. The only question is, will you take the next step? If you struggle with confidence, ask yourself, what would I do if I already believed in myself? How would you speak? How would you carry yourself? What decisions would you make? Now, do that. Even before you feel ready, even before you feel certain. This is not pretending, it is practice. And through practice you become. So, I leave you with this. What is one action you can take today right now that moves you toward the person you want to become? Do not wait for confidence. Create it. Because confidence is not something you find, it is something you build. 6. The freedom of letting go, healing through forgiveness. Imagine gripping a rope with all your strength. On the other end is resentment, pain, and past wounds that refuse to fade. You hold on, believing that tightening your grip gives you control. But the longer you hold, the deeper the rope cuts into your hands. The pain is not coming from what happened, it is coming from your refusal to let go. We often misunderstand forgiveness. We think it means excusing what was done to us, allowing those who hurt us to escape accountability. But the truth is, forgiveness is not about them, it is about you. It is not about erasing the past, but about refusing to let the past control your future. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." When you hold on to anger, you remain tied to the very thing that hurt you. But when you forgive, you reclaim your power. You choose to move forward, unburdened. Many of us believe that holding on to pain protects us. We think that if we let go, we are somehow saying that what happened was okay. But ask yourself who is truly suffering from your anger. Think of a time when someone wronged you. Maybe they betrayed your trust, insulted you, abandoned you. You replay the moment in your mind, fueling your anger, hoping that somehow this will make things right. But does it? Or does it only deepen your suffering? Seneca once said, "While we are postponing, life speeds by." Holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. The longer you carry it, the more it drains you. Some believe that forgiving is a sign of weakness, that it means letting people get away with their actions. But forgiveness is not passive. It is an act of strength. It is saying, "I will not allow your actions to control me any longer." If someone wrongs you and you stay consumed by it, they still have power over you. But the moment you forgive, you take back control. You decide that your peace is more important than your anger. This does not mean allowing toxic people back into your life. It does not mean tolerating mistreatment. It means choosing to release the emotional chains that keep you tied to them. Perhaps the most difficult person to forgive is not someone else, it is yourself. We all carry regrets, words we wish we had not said, opportunities we let slip away, mistakes that replay in our minds late at night. But here is a truth you must accept. You cannot heal while punishing yourself for the past. Think of a fire. If you keep feeding it with regret, it will keep burning. But if you stop fueling it, it will fade, leaving behind not destruction but space for something new. If you made mistakes, learn from them. If you hurt someone, make amends. But do not carry guilt like a stone around your neck. You are not defined by your past, you are defined by what you do next. Many people delay forgiveness because they are waiting for an apology that may never come. But what if you no longer needed it? The Stoics teach us that we cannot control the actions of others, only our response. If someone wronged you and never acknowledged it, does that mean you must suffer forever? Or can you choose to free yourself, even without their validation? When you stop waiting for an apology, you step into your own power. You choose to heal, regardless of whether they ever take responsibility. That is true freedom. Forgiveness is not always instant. It is a practice, a decision made again and again until the weight finally lifts. Here's how you start. Acknowledge your pain. Do not suppress it. Feel it fully, but recognize that it does not have to define you. Reframe the story. Instead of seeing yourself as a victim, see yourself as someone who endured, who survived, who grew. Choose peace over being right. Ask yourself, do I want to be free or do I want to be right? Holding on to resentment may feel justified, but it does not bring you peace. Let go in silence. You do not need to announce your forgiveness. You do not need to explain it. Just decide within yourself that you are ready to release it. Picture standing at the edge of the ocean, watching the waves crash against the shore. The water does not cling to the sand. It surrenders. It lets go. You too can choose to let go, not because they deserve it, not because it was fair, but because you deserve peace. 7. Embracing the unknown. Learning to trust life's path. There is a quiet fear that lives in all of us, the fear of the unknown. We try to map out every step, predict every outcome, and control what is ultimately uncontrollable. But life does not unfold according to our plans. It moves in ways we cannot always understand, shifting like the tides, shaping us in ways we never anticipated. And yet, we resist. But what if you stopped fighting? What if, instead of fearing the unknown, you trusted it? Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs?" This is the essence of trusting life's path, not blind optimism, but the understanding that everything, even the unexpected, has a role to play in your growth. We like to believe we are in control, that if we plan well enough, work hard enough, or worry long enough, we can force life to bend to our will. But the truth is, control is an illusion. You cannot control the actions of others. You cannot control the timing of opportunities. You cannot control the setbacks that arise. But what you can control is how you respond. You can resist life, or you can adapt. You can fear change, or you can embrace it. The more you try to control life, the more frustrated you become. The more you learn to flow with it, the freer you become. Much of our suffering comes from trying to predict an uncertain future. What if I fail? What if I make the wrong choice? What if things don't go as planned? But ask yourself, has worrying ever stopped the inevitable? Has fear ever protected you from change? Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." The future is unknown, yes, but that does not mean it is dangerous. It simply means it has yet to be written. And if that is true, then why assume the worst? Think back to the moments in your life when things didn't go as planned, the doors that closed, the opportunities that slipped away, and yet somehow you made it through. You adapted, you grew, you survived. What makes you think you won't do the same again? Imagine standing in a river, trying to fight the current. You push against it, struggling, exhausting yourself. But the river keeps flowing, indifferent to your resistance. Now, imagine letting go. Instead of fighting, you float. You trust that the river knows where it is going. This is life. The more you resist, the harder it feels. But when you surrender not in weakness, but in trust, you find peace. This does not mean giving up on your goals. It means detaching from the need for everything to happen exactly as you expect. It means working hard, but not tying your happiness to a single outcome. It means embracing uncertainty as part of the journey. The Stoics believe that every event, whether joyful or painful, is a lesson. Nothing is wasted, nothing is random. Everything has the potential to shape you if you let it. A rejection may be redirection. A failure may be preparation. A delay may be protection. What if, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you asked, "What can this teach me?" What if every setback was not a punishment, but a step towards something greater? You do not have to understand the path to trust that it is leading you somewhere important. When you stop fearing the future, you can finally start living in the present. And the present is all you truly have. The next time you feel anxious about what's ahead, pause. Look around you. Feel the air in your lungs. Listen to the sounds around you. Remind yourself that, right now, in this moment, you are okay. You are here. Because no matter what happens next, you will face it the same way you have faced everything else, with strength, with resilience, and with the ability to adapt. Trusting life is not just about trusting external events. It is about trusting yourself. Trusting that no matter what comes, you will handle it. You do not need to know every answer. You do not need to predict every outcome. You only need to take the next step. So, I ask you this. What would happen if you stopped resisting and started trusting? Because life will unfold as it must. The only question is, will you flow with it, or will you fight it? The gift of solitude, finding peace in yourself. And so, we come full circle. We began with a question, can you be truly happy alone? And now, after everything we have explored, the answer is clear. Happiness is not something you seek outside of yourself, it is something you build within. Letting go, embracing solitude, removing negativity, uncovering your self-worth, taking action, forgiving, and trusting life's path, these are not just lessons, they are keys. Keys that unlock a life where you are no longer at the mercy of others, where your peace is no longer dependent on approval, where your strength comes from within. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." And that is the greatest truth of all. Your soul is your sanctuary. The world will try to convince you that solitude is loneliness, that you must constantly be seen, heard, validated, that your worth is measured by your relationships, your success, your image. But you now know better. You are enough, as you are. where you are. So, I leave you with one final thought. Happiness in solitude is not about escaping the world, it is about mastering yourself. And when you do, you will never feel lost again, because wherever you go, you will always have yourself. Now, the only question left is, what will you do with this freedom?